Oh, I was addicted to television.
All right.
You
Tell
know,
us about
like
that.
that has a lot to do with what I do now. So I was completely addicted to television. Of course, I loved going outside to play, doing arts. I was always into the art. So I was also a visual artist. So I drew, and I still draw and paint. And so I was into that. But on I really loved, there was something about television and movies that drew me in.
Before, it was not a good thing to see blood on the screen, no? But now it's like that is what people want to see. They want to see people dying, no? They want to see people really suffering. Like the suffering have become something to enjoy, no? Like you see a man walking across the road, the man is falling. Instead of you helping, you take your phone and take a picture of him falling. So that what the people are going to like is not you going there to take this man away from, stop him from being falling. They want to see the man falling. The falling is the interesting part of it, which is people are really glorifying the human suffering.
There are platforms available that are open to the average person to be able to do that, to leverage the creator economy. But there also needs to be a level of support. And we have to be real and fair and honest that often our governments don't lend that support, right? They don't find it important. They find other personal things more important, and that hinders all types of development, including the development of the creative industries. My name is Chetachi Egwu, or Dr. Chetachi Egwu, and people know me colloquially as Dr. Tachi. I am a media professor, a filmmaker, a media content producer, and also a journalist. I am the host and creator of a show called Mediascope, where I talk about all things media, tech, and pop culture on Wednesdays weekly. Even though we're on a hiatus right now, we'll be coming back soon. And I am the co-host and co-creator of a podcast called TV Channeling, where my co-host and I talk about all things TV, film, entertainment, and news in that strain. And then finally, I am the founder of a new network called Indie Soup Media that aims to show the independent content creator in his or her or their best light.
That is so beautiful, Dr. Tachi. I can see a lot of value in what we are going to be discussing today, because a lot of the people that are following Obehi Podcast, they had an inclination to business. Most of them are also in the creative economy, or what we call the creative economy today, because there is a lot of creativity in what we are doing today. So is that okay for you if we like zoom lens on that, looking at maybe the opportunity that we have as a people within the creative economy?
Absolutely. I think, sometimes the emphasis tends to be so much on STEM, which is very important, the sciences, etc. In fact, in many places, there is, especially in the US, there is a huge push and emphasis toward STEM and pushing students, younger students, into STEM fields, or the, science and technology fields. And that is necessary and it's needed because so many countries are way ahead of us when it comes to adopting technology. And it's interesting because you think that the US is so far ahead technologically. Not really. Not when you look at places in Europe and Japan and elsewhere, in Asia. We're not as far advanced as we think. And so there's that push to have our students catch up with the rest of the world, which is important. But it has been shown, studies have shown that you also need the arts, that you also need these creative fields, and that the creative economy is necessary. All we have to do is look at the numbers of people. And I'm speaking specifically like the US and Canada, but even more specifically the US, where during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, people decided You know what? I've had it with this corporate job. I've had it with the mistreatment. This is the time for me to start my own business, right? And for many people, starting their own businesses looked like becoming full time content creators, putting their energies and efforts into buying the equipment and coming up with the content that would put them in a place to be a full time creator. So that's what I think.
That is fantastic. That is really fantastic. Okay, you have made mention of US or Canada. Of course, we could actually enlarge that because we are entirely about African diaspora. So, irrespective of where you might find yourself, that can be really important for us. And again, we are going to be also see that if there is a way to also add the Africa, which is the motherland where we are coming from, into the conversation, because looking at the African demography and the African population today, we could actually see that we have a huge advantage in terms of the demography, where we have a high percentage of young people in the population. And the young people, of course, are also mostly inclined to technology. So if we're talking of the creative economy, the use of technology is very important in this area, and their young mind can also be very helpful in that area. And that also can be also relevant if we were to look at how our economy is set up. No, like maybe for example, you look at how the European economy is set up or how the Western economy is set up. You finish your school, you have your job almost secure for you. But in Africa, it's not like that, which is supposed to be an advantage in that now, as you are growing up, you need to know that you need to care for yourself. You need to find your own job. If the creative economy is the option, it means just create your own company. Just start doing something. Just add the value. So you're already in it. All right. So that is just a kind of a preamble. Now I want to take a step back. So Dr. Tachi, tell me a little bit about you. I'm looking at you now as a young girl. You are about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the teenage year. Tell me, what do you remember of you growing up?
Oh, I was addicted to television.
All right. Tell us about that.
that has a lot to do with what I do now. So I was completely addicted to television. Of course, I loved going outside to play, doing arts. I was always into the art. So I was also a visual artist. So I drew and I still draw and paint. And so I was into that. But I really loved, there was something about television and movies that drew me in, even to the point where my parents started calling me TV addict. I was like, well, it is what it is. So I was very much into the concept of creating something and having people watch what you create, which is like my sister and I would always come up with plays and do things. And so to me, television was just the manifestation of the plays that we made up, which basically is what it is, right? And so that's what I remember definitely about growing up, in addition to doing all things creative, because initially I wanted to be a fashion designer. So because of my drawing skills, I would draw things and then go and have them made. I sewed a little bit, but that wasn't my thing. My thing was actually the designing of it. But yeah, that's what I remember growing up, very heavily into all things creative. If it was creative, I did it. In addition to dance, because I'm a dancer choreographer as well. So anything creative, that was my thing.
That is lovely. That is lovely.
Yeah.
All right. So where did you grow up? Tell me about that.
So I grew up born in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then when I was young, my father got a job at the University of Buffalo. So we ended up moving to Buffalo, New York. For people who aren't familiar with the United States, we ended up moving to Buffalo, New York. And most of my growing up was there between Ann Arbor, Michigan and Buffalo, New York.
All right, Buffalo, New York. We must remember the song of Bob Marley, Buffalo Soldier.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, of course, that is a name that usually will come to mind now when you made mention of Buffalo. Very young age now. You will be tickling with the creative act. You'll be drawing. You'll be doing all sort of things. And that is really very interesting. Now, if you look at yourself, look at where you are coming from. Okay, I also see your name sound very Nigerian, no? Which of course
it is.
I don't know if you want to say anything about that, because we are talking about storytelling here, and we are actually using storytelling to connect ourselves. So could you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, both of my parents are Nigerians. Both of them are Igbo from Eastern Nigeria and came here. My dad came to the US for school in the 60s, and my mom was actually in England. And then she came here, and then they got married, and here we are. So, yes, I'm very Nigerian. And my dad actually went back to live full time in Nigeria like in the 80s. And so we would go back and forth between Nigeria and here. But, obviously most of my growing up was in the States.
Okay, as you are growing up now, you are beginning to get settled into your trajectory of what you want to be. What is
Yeah.
influencing you? What is helping you to give you a frame of reference of what you want to become?
You mean when I was younger?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you were younger, because of
Okay.
course now you're an expert, you're a professor, you have done everything. But I'm talking of before you get to this point.
But I'm still growing and I'm still learning. So that's why I wanted to clarify. But my father. So here's the thing. I think you know very well. So I said that I wanted to be a fashion designer. That was where I was headed, where I was going. In my mind, I wanted to go to FIT in New York City and study fashion. And again, I didn't. My thing was design, but obviously there's so many aspects to fashion. The business of fashion. There is pattern making. There's merchandising, retail, a lot of different ends to it. But when you're young, you don't really understand that there are so many different ends to it. So I just knew the design end to it. So when I told my father that I think I wanted to study fashion, that didn't go well at all. Because for Africans, there are four fields that you can really go into: doctor, lawyer, engineer, disgrace the family. So I chose the fourth, I think. So, but my father was actually the one that said, since you like plays and since you love television, why don't you think about majoring in mass communication? Mind you, this was eighth grade. Okay, I hadn't even finished or entered high school yet. So I was like, okay, what is that? So I started to explore a little bit more about what uh, mass communication was, or mass media. And I said, okay, I think I can do that. And then so I applied to a lot of different schools. I got into all the schools I applied to, but I ended up staying closer to home at the University of Buffalo. Um, though that was not my first choice. But I ended up staying there, and I ended up for grad school going where I actually wanted to go. But yeah, it was my father's recommendation that I take a look at mass media or mass communication, and that's what I ended up majoring in. And all of my academic career has been dedicated to mass media.
So now you are in the media industry, as you call it. Do you call it industry? Anyway, I think we
Yeah,
could say
no, no,
so.
you're right. It is the media industries. Yes, yes.
All right. So tell me a little bit. What do you do exactly in this area? Because now we are getting more in detail now in this sector. Yeah.
So I do a number of different things. If it exists, I do it. So in terms of mass media, let me go back a little bit in terms of what I majored in. So I majored in communication and mass. Well, at the University of Buffalo, they had just communication. So you ended up being like a generalist, but the area that I wanted to specialize in was mass media. So I ended up taking more classes that were specific to mass media. So once I took the core that I needed for communication, then I specialized into mass media. But it was in my at the end of my sophomore year that I discovered that UB actually also had a media studies program, and I had no clue. Nobody said anything to me. I found out about it on my own, and it was in the School of Fine Arts. So I went over there and I'm like, what's all this about? So it turns out that that program is dedicated to, and it's changed a little bit since I graduated, but dedicated to independent film and video production. I said, but this is what I wanted to do all along. Why have I been sitting in the classes that that I didn't care about? Because I wanted to produce. I was very influenced by Spike Lee and his work, by Julie Dash and his work, and a lot of great, her work, and a lot of great filmmakers. And so I said, well, that's what I want to do. I want to make films. What's the problem? So I ended up taking on a minor in media study. And really, honestly, in my head, I should have been, this is where I should have been all along, because it let me get into my creative side. I am very techie and technical. It let me get into the technical side. And when I was in undergrad, they still had not switched over to everything being non-linear, or meaning like using computers to edit. We were still editing on like tape, videotape, and film. Like I learned on 35, 16, and 8mm film, where you actually, to edit, there was no editing in computer. You had to physically cut it, tape it, send it for processing, and wait for it to come back. Now, the thing is, Buffalo had no film processing lab. The closest one was Toronto. So you could send it to New York City, but then you had to hurry up and do your project and make sure that it was on time so you could get it back from New York, or you could take a day trip up to Toronto, which is what I would do often. It's an hour and a half drive. Give it to them. It would be all day. If you got it in by 8 a.m., it would be to you by 5, and you could come back. And so that's what I often did. So we're talking about very analog ways of processing video. And with the video, it was reel to reel. Sound was reel to reel. And this wasn't that long ago. Then it switched over like really quickly. Everything switched to computers. But I wanted to give that background in terms of that. So my influences are obviously a lot of great filmmakers, a lot of great television producers in terms of doing that. And I got a taste of that at the University of Buffalo through the media studies program.
Thank you so much for that. That is really interesting. We're beginning to get all the information around there. So they're great for us. They're great.
Thank you.
All right. So, but what do you spend most of your time on today? Okay, I know you do a lot of things, but there is an aspect that you concentrate more on today, right?
Maybe, maybe. So I spend a lot of time, as I said, I'm in the process of starting an independent OTT network. And for people who don't understand what OTT means, that's over the top. So if you think of, and I don't know what the equivalent in Europe would be or other, but think of a way where you don't need like cable or to get your content. So here we have like Roku. You may be familiar with Chrome Stick, right? Or Chromecast. Also Fire TV from Amazon, or Fire Stick from Amazon. Those are all ways that you can they basically have apps loaded on them where you can get your content. So I'm in the midst of building a network that would live on Roku, would also live on our social channels, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live, also on our website. And then eventually, I'm very into the concept of Web3 being the next iteration of and the future of content. So I'm looking to build out in the metaverse as well, in a platform called Spatial.
That's very interesting. All right. So before we were talking about because I'm looking at our conversation in the area of opportunity that exists for African diaspora, because that is our main target in this podcast, and of course in everything that I do. And of course, I also do not forget where I'm coming from, which is Africa and Nigeria. Of course, we are both from Nigeria. So what opportunity do you see in this area for young people in Africa and people of African diaspora for being able to leverage the power of content creation or the creative economy, as it were? What opportunity do you see for them? And of course, looking at also what you are doing, you are building something really, really interesting that they can also leverage at the end of the day. So share with me in those areas.
There are numerous opportunities. There's nothing but opportunity when it comes, excuse me, to this area. Because if you think about before, let's just take Nigeria for an example. They've already been building a creative economy, or the creators economy, although we didn't really think about it. But Nollywood had been bubbling up under our noses for donkey years at this point. It's well, I remember starting. When did I start to really watch these things? Probably when I was younger, in the '90s. I started watching a lot of our programs. So we've always had that creators economy. It was just about distribution on a wider level. And so now the proliferation of the internet, the proliferation of social media, and the fact that equipment has gotten so inexpensive. And I won't say everyone, but so many people have one of these, right? A smartphone of some type. And with this, you don't even have to, you can use this as your recording tool, right? You can even say, well, I don't have minutes, if we're talking about Africa, I don't have my minutes. Well, you don't need your minutes to shoot. You could just use your phone to shoot. You can edit, and then you can upload it wherever you need it to be uploaded. The fact that there is something called YouTube, where you can basically build your own library of work that you do, that is incredible. And so it speaks to the fact that there are places that you can shoot and upload for monetization. And let me give you an example. And I'm sure have you ever heard of the show, the Nigerian show, Jennifer's Diary?
Yeah.
Okay. So comes on every Sunday, and I watch religiously. And Funke has not taken a break at all. It's like consistently going on, and it's a wonderful show. Well, she, started producing it. Of course, it's very popular in Nigeria, and it's a lot of people in America watch as well. Worldwide, they watch, because I look at the comments, because it premieres every Sunday, right? And I look at the comments, and people are just having conversations with themselves. So this has allowed her, for example, to bypass traditional systems of content creation and content distribution, more importantly, and reach her fans directly. It goes up on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody is there waiting for it to premiere, right? And so it's absolutely phenomenal, the fact that she's been able to do this. And not only that, she also has some funding that she got from I can't remember which foundation it is here, but she's gotten funding for the foundation, from a foundation here, to produce it. She monetizes because YouTube plays ads, and she gets a monetization through that because of YouTube. It's absolutely amazing. So that is just an example of what can be done with it. If you are creative and you see an opportunity to reach your audience, do something like what she did. Reach them via YouTube, etc. I mean, you're on YouTube. You see.
That's so true. I like what you said before, that there is nothing more, that is nothing else that you see other than opportunity, and that is what it is. You were in the presentation that we did for Dr. Chetachi, celebrating his achievement. I was saying that when we look at African reality, and maybe we see challenges for people that are within the entrepreneurial cycle, that should not be seen as challenge. They should be seen as opportunity, because the only way you exist as an entrepreneur is because you are solving problem. If you have no problem to solve, then you don't need to be an entrepreneur. Which means if there are problems, you should be happy, because now you have something to do. You are providing solution. I like what some people say, that the people who are really changing the world are not even the politicians, are the entrepreneur. People who look at a village, for example, and say, but why is it that between my village and the next village, there is no road connecting them? What can we do? Then you look for a way to fix that. Then, of course, you are not doing it for free. You make money from it. All it needs is the idea, the right people, and things can happen. So, yeah, if there are problems there, that is opportunity for people who want to find solution to that.
Exactly.
Anyway, having said that, now because we are talking of the creator or the creative economy, what should sort of guide us? Because the creative economy is not really something that is new because we have been creating for forever, no? We have been writing books forever. We read books that are more than 2,000 years old. These people have created it. They've made money from it. Okay, they are not like it today, no? But it have been there. And within that area, there is a line that is very thin for us to trade, which is how do we put ourselves in the media so that the people can consume our information and then we can also get paid from that. I think that is where it can really be interesting. But what information should we even put there? Okay, now let me back out and explain. If you go to Facebook, for example, you see a lot of horrible content that maybe promote nudity, promote a lot of terrible things about us, and they get a lot of view. A woman just get naked, she get a lot of view. That can be something good for the algorithm, but is it good for you? Because now we need to make money, yes, but you don't need to cut off somebody's head and sell it in the market. That is not the money, no? When you are making money, are there also some value? Are there also some principle? When you are creating content, are there some guideline? What should we do to create content, to make money, but also save ourselves, making sure that we safeguard our dignity? Please help me in this area.
Absolutely. So I'll lead off with this. All money is not good money. I think we've heard that before. All money is not good money. And when it comes to the creator economy and getting things out there, I think the overwhelming, I shouldn't say the overwhelming majority, but the majority that fall into the narrative of making money may want for something to go viral, right? Because when something goes viral, that's where attention is, that's where money potentially can be made. Well, I challenge people with this. It's not about, and I don't think the word is virality. I think I'll say viralness instead. So it's not about viralness. It's about connecting with your communities, right? Because all of this, when we talk about, for example, social media, that's still media and that's still getting your message across. Social media is social at its root. That's what separates it from the traditional linear media where there could be a show and you will never hear from the producers, the directors, the actors of the show. You could write them a letter all day and you won't hear Pim, nothing. But with social media, it gives the opportunity for you to talk back, to give feedback, hopefully constructive, but it gives the opportunity for you to give feedback. And so I think now there is a great opportunity, but we cannot squander and we cannot waste that opportunity. So I said this to say this. At one time, I was an ambassador for Social Media Week, and they do social media weeks all over the world. Well, I was an ambassador for Social Media Week Miami, and I remember very well, and I can't remember her name, but we had a speaker there that said, whatever you put out on social media, you should be proud of. So I'll say that when it comes to any type of media, when you're putting programs out there, is this something you are proud of? Would you take this to a room full of people and say, hey, look what I did? And wait for that. If you are ashamed or you're hiding or you're backtracking, that means you're not proud of it, which means that it shouldn't be out there anyway. So I think that's something that we should use and keep in mind, that whatever you put out there, you should be proud of. You should be able to take your phone or open your laptop and show it to a group of people, decent, sensible people, and they would be proud of it too.
That is very interesting. That is very interesting. In fact, that answers a lot of questions that somebody could ask. It's like saying, how do you know that something is good? Of course, you should know that something is good because how do you feel about it? You want to wear a dress. How do you feel about that dress that you are wearing? You want to eat. Do you really enjoy the food that you are eating? You don't need to be a genius to understand that. Like you just said, you are producing a content, you are sharing it in the public. Could you take this content to the people you really love, to your inner circle and say, hey, come and enjoy with me, I produce this content. Can you do that? I think that calls for a kind of self-reflection to say, okay, yes, I still want to create content and make money. I want to be popular, yes, depend if that popularity what you are looking for. Actually, I think impact is what is the most important. I want to be able to impact people. If that is the case, the content that we are producing, we should sort of look for a way to hold ourselves accountable for it, that because we are putting our face in it and say, this is what we are doing. I'm really proud of it. So I like the way you put it. No, you don't just throw it out there. You do this intentionally and you are proud of it. That is interesting. But
Exactly.
if people are not doing this, why?
Why aren't they doing it?
Yes.
Because they think that sensationalism or shock or whatever it is that they're putting out there that is not the best will make them money, and that's what they care about. If you lead with a monetization or money first attitude, that's what comes up, right? There's a couple of things. It's the people that there are people that don't care what is out there as long as it makes money. They don't care. They don't care who it hurts. They don't care if it makes them look bad because they're making money. There are also the people who have been so starved and deprived of attention that any type of attention is good attention to them, and so they'll put these types of things out there. They'll even I'm not even just talking about the people creating the actual content. I try not to read the comments underneath a lot of the social media because I'll say 90% of it is ill thought and ill formed. So, and then I'm like, why did I waste my time to read that? But sometimes I do, right? But I see some things in the comments. It's like, this person just wanted attention. Did it work? Now what? So you got attention for that comment. Is it translating into money for you? Is it translating into love in your life? What did that do? So there are people that are so starved for attention that they will make anything and comment anything in order to be noticed. That's a bigger problem than what social media or media can solve. But those are the two things that I see with that. So in terms of why, they either want to make money or looking for attention because they've never had attention. And sometimes they think that attention can translate to money.
Hmm. All right. There is a kind of thought that I have, sometime relating to the conversation that we are having today, which is the behavior of the algorithm, Um,
Mm.
you see, recently Google, no, Facebook founder was defending Meta, Facebook, in the U.S. House of Parliament, and I just saw him being roasted there. It's not the first time. Google has also been called there because they have this complex machine that sort of control how people behave online. And sometimes people look at it to be very innocent, but it's not really that innocent. Sometimes they are very complex and complicated instruments that are out there that determine what you see. After you have seen it, this is what you are going to see the next. After you see that, then you are going to see this again. And it can be damaging if we are not careful what we consume. Because the moment you consume information, you don't have a way of canceling that, because I think the brain is like this. It's receptive. All the information you are dropping in is just falling. All of them are just falling in. And you are going to have to live with that. Now, I'm saying that to say that we as content creator do have a responsibility towards the consumer of this content. Because, like, for example, what I'm saying is that sometimes the algorithm, the complex machine that control the internet, are not as neutral as they are, because they promote certain content. That is why a lot of people produce those type of content. But as we can see, some of those content are not really promoting the dignity of some people. Anyway, I don't know if I really want to travel that much in that area. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to take responsibility for the content that we are creating, because it's conditioning people. We want to make money, yes, but do we want to destroy our family, our community, because we just want to make money? Well, how much responsibility do we need to take? Maybe that is how I want to put it.
Okay, how much absolutely, we need to take sole responsibility because it's been proven over and over that lawmakers, legislators are not going to take responsibility. You just mentioned Mark Zuckerberg being called up on the Hill. Is it Panchai from Google? I can't remember his name, but yeah, basically the big four have been called up on the Hill all the time. Theater and nonsense, because none of these legislators understand anything about technology, understand anything about human behavior. So they have no clue how this works. So it's just whenever somebody has a problem, oh, there's a whole bunch of people mad about what's happening on Facebook. Oh, well, let's bring them to the Hill. They don't know what they're doing. So they sit there with a farce of a line of questioning. And then whatever happens, nothing ever happens. They've been to the Hill donkey's times and nothing ever happens. And I could probably hasten to say this is probably partially the same case with some other governments, but I can only speak on this one because I've seen the shenanigans here. So, when you don't have a legislators and lawmakers that are interested in really making change because maybe they're being lobbied by some of these people, nothing happens. So we have to take responsibility in our own hands. But again, it's a conscious effort because many societies are so entrenched on money over everything. So if that's the case, then it doesn't matter whether you're moral because money matters first. And we see that all the time. We see that with corporations. We see that in our workplaces often. And so I think really it's going to take us. How do you do it? I don't know that I exactly have the answer, but for those of us that are creators, the first thing is, like I said, make sure that you are proud of your content, right? Make sure it's almost like, okay, there's a code for journalism, right? As a journalist, there's like a journalistic code of ethics and the things almost like the Hippocratic oath of doing no harm, right? There needs to be some standards for yourself in terms of, all right, well, what do journalists do? They are some of the first people that we've seen in the media reporting on a regular basis on what happens. Does it mean they always do things right? No, but there is a code of ethics that they are supposed to abide by, just like there are for doctors or many other professionals that have an effect on society. So we need to start to use those things. Guess what? If you are on YouTube or any of these things, you effectively are a citizen journalist. Take the time to learn how to do things properly and understand the craft, and then you'll know that this doesn't mean no bad stuff ever gets on television or whatever, but there is a measure. Use those same measures for yourself when you are creating content. So I think that's part of the way to get to something that resembles something that won't harm society.
All right. I want us to reflect on something. Because I said before, and of course you also confirm me that some of this negative content that we see online are the ones that are often be promoted because it's about response. People like to, it was not a good thing to see blood on the screen. But now it's like that is what people want to see. They want to see people die. They want to see people really suffering. Like the suffering have become something to enjoy. It's like you see a man walking across the road, the man is falling. Instead of you helping, you take your phone and take a picture of him falling. So that what the people are going to like is not you going there to take this man away from, stop him from being falling. They want to see the man falling. The falling is the interesting part of it, which is people are really glorifying the human suffering. See, what I'm trying to say here is that, is it even possible that we can do the right thing and we can still be viral, we can still be popular online, that the content that we create can still be very valuable in terms of helping to shape the human society instead of glorifying the negative part of it? That we don't need to let a man fall from the sky and crash his head on the ground and we'll be showing it so that the picture will go viral. Maybe we can put our hands to hold the man that is falling. It doesn't fall, but we're not going to get a picture of that because you are alone. When you see something happening, you have the option either to film it and share it to the world. Oh, this is the bad thing that have happened today. Or you can prevent the bad from being happening. But the risk there is that nobody's going to film you showing it. But this is a decision you are making. What I'm saying is that this responsibility if we decide to go that way, is that we prevent the evil from happening. Instead of filming the evil and sharing it on the line, do we still have the chance of making money from the content we create? I don't know if it is complicated.
Yeah, no, the answer is always yes. Um, the answer is always yes. It's interesting because I have a sorority sister she's a comedian in Los Angeles, and she has a social media series, little bits of social media that she does called "Who's Filming and Not Helping." So it's things where people are doing different things, and she's like, "What I need to know is who is filming and not helping."
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I kind of look at that like this is how you have to look at it. Is there an opportunity for you to help the individuals who are there? If it is, then you don't need to be filming. You don't need to be recording this. Unless it's something where that recording is going to unequivocally prove that there is an issue or a problem and you can use that as proof, then I can see that. But there are too many people, as you said, who let things go wrong and go awry in it because they want to be recognized for having taken this. This is great. I mean, and there is some backlash sometimes because all you have to do is look at, for example, if you remember, I can't remember the actor's name, but it was an actor that played Elvin on the Cosby Show, and he teaches acting, right? In LA, but acting is hard. You're only as good as your last gig. So in addition to teaching acting and between acting gigs, he worked at a store called Trader Joe's. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Trader Joe's is like a grocery store, right? Similar to like an Aldi, and I know they have Aldi in Europe. So somebody took, a picture of him and then put it up on Twitter, which is now X, and basically saying like, oh, wow, he used to be on the Cosby Show and look at him now. Well, that got such backlash. But like, how dare you? He's trying, who cares? He's working. And so there are pockets where it's happening where instead of denigrating someone, people celebrate. And as a result, he's gotten more roles for the things he's doing. But it shows that there's no harm in whatever work you're doing. But that's a case where the person got backlash for doing it. So we need more of that. Instead of celebrating the bad, why are you not lifting that person up? And you're shopping at Trader Joe's. There's no way you can help. So if you can't help, say nothing. Move on.
Thank you for that. That is a good advice. That is a good advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Now, let's look at the African diaspora, for example, because like I said before, that is our target audience here.
Yeah.
Both the African diaspora and also Africans in Africa, we have a peculiar problem that we are dealing with. We are still dealing with it, and of course, we'll deal with it also in times to come, which is our image, how we are portrayed in the world. And this is because for very many years, somebody have been telling our story. We are not being the one telling the story. And the consequence of this is that we are used to saying, oh, they didn't represent us. Like, they didn't tell our story. They didn't tell it enough. They didn't show us, no? But I often say, but there is no guarantee that they're going to show us. There is no guarantee that they are calling us to CNN. There is no guarantee that when they do the film, they're going to show the best part of you because they are the one telling the story.
Yeah.
Now, if we are talking of the creative economy or the creator's economy, we now have access to the tools to create the information. Is it possible that we can use it to shape our narrative so that we show what we want to show? The images that represent us, that promote our dignity, that say, in Africa is literally filled with stories that in Nigeria, okay, let's talk of Nigeria, for example, the Nok culture, central Nigeria. One day I was interviewing a professor. This professor was in Jos. Because we were talking of engineering argument, I was saying, what if we could maybe talk about how the Nok people constructed? What is the standard of construction there among the non-culture thousands of years ago? This is in Nigeria. Because the known culture will be discovered by the Dutch coming to Nigeria, no? But there are a lot of professors in Nigeria, there are a lot of experts in Nigeria who can write books about it. The other day, a lecturer there contacted me. He wanted me to do a storytelling class for students there in Jos. I said, wow, this is very interesting. Then we started. Then at the point, I was telling the student there, I said, hey, listen, you are sitting on top of a gold mine. Because Harvard University want to do a research about the known culture. But do you know that you have more authority to talk about the known culture than the Harvard University lecturer? Because the Harvard University lecturer is coming from the United States to come and do a story about the known. But you are here. The Harvard University lecturer is going to write that story using the voice of they. But you are going to write the story using the voice of we, ours. You have more power, you have more authority talking about this story than somebody coming from Europe or the United States. Of course, I'm just talking of the non-culture. We have, the country is full of story. The world of Benin is one of the wonders of the world. But we don't expect the Europeans to say, okay, they didn't add us. But why are they going to add us? So the question is this one. Okay, I'm a little emotional when it comes to this area now. Because I see us having the possibility to do the things. Sometimes we don't do it. Sometimes we also go around regurgitating the same thing that have been written by other people, while we have the chance to write it ourselves and use the term we, our, because we're talking about our ancestors. They are our people. They are our fathers and our mothers. So we're not going to write that story, say they. We're talking of we. Can we use this opportunity to reshape our identity, to reshape our history? Please share with me there.
Yes, the simple answer is yes. I think that it comes with understanding, as you said, that we are the ones who can most adequately tell our stories. Everyone else is just an unobtrusive observer who comes in and says what they think, right? Even if they're saying it through the eye, through interviews, through the eyes of people in the culture, we still understand the culture and we can use media in order to tell our stories. But it comes with number one, understanding that there is value in the culture. Number two, being educated as to such, in that there is value in the culture and value in us telling our stories. Number three, knowing how to story tell effectively in a way that people can consume the culture and we can get paid for that consumption. And then number four, you talked about that you were speaking to a group of students. Well, what are the professors in these universities doing in terms of teaching that storytelling? Every single field needs that storytelling aspect. There should be storytelling in the sciences, obviously storytelling in the creator economy, et cetera, et cetera. You could go all the way through everything. And for especially African countries and African cultures, plural, stories to be told effectively, it has to be told by Africans. But if you don't know how to tell a story, it's not going to work. And so there needs to be that aspect, as trite as it may seem, that aspect of storytelling needs to be in every curriculum so that we understand how to tell those stories effectively. And then the next thing, number five, is like, why are we waiting for a CNN or whatever? That's the whole reason I'm doing something like starting a network, because I refuse to beg anybody to put my things on. And I know my stuff is good. So I'm not begging you. I don't, bigotry is not a word, but I made it up, so I use it. I'm not with the bigotry. So I refuse to beg anybody for the opportunity. We now have opportunity. There's no excuse. YouTube, social media, you can start a network. There's no excuse. You don't have to wait for one of the big networks or one of the big outlets to give you an opportunity to say something. You can say it without them. So it's also realizing that.
Thank you so much for that. I like that courage. That is powerful. We need it. You see, there is something peculiar. I'm not trying to over-celebrate Nigeria in respect to other African countries, but of course, we can see that we have done it a number of times. We have proven it, no? You see, I wrote a book in 2010. The book is titled Underdevelopment in Africa, My Hands Are Clean. The book, basically, the thesis was that as Africa, we need to take responsibility for what is happening. We cannot simply say something is happening in Africa, it is the fault of other people. No. You see, even to the point of being a slave, you have a role to play there too. You can end it if you want. All right. So what I'm saying in essence is we have a responsibility, a very big one. We cannot leave it to other people to do. I see a countless amount of African academia who still remain in the same line of doing the same thing that have led them to where they are, and they pass it down to other people. One day I was interviewing a scholar in the US. They were talking about because I'm really very passionate about these things. So we're talking about life and legacy. So we're talking about Du Bois and Khadija Wilson. These are, of course, very important personalities in African American history. They were talking about their line. They were talking about Du Bois, of course, getting education in Harvard. The question I was putting before my lecturer was, but who is teaching Du Bois about Africa? Du Bois, before he became a professor, who was teaching him? And then, of course, he did a very interesting conversation with me. And then at the point we got to understand that there are some people, some European, of course, who wanted to finance African studies. And I say, like I said before, that is not African study. That is a study that they want to do about Africa, but the real African study is going to be done by the African people. And that book is going to be written from the point of view of we. Because there is a lot of digging going on also in Egypt today. So the other day I was interviewing an Egyptologist. The name is Vanessa. Then I was asking her, okay, now you tell me, you are an expert. You are living in the United States, being financed by the United States government, going to Egypt to do story. Are you telling me that you don't have a preference of what you want to report? Are you telling me that you are just going to have history as a kind of universal experience? It's not going to be possible because somebody is footing the bill. If I'm the one paying you to travel to, to Canada to study, you are going to appeal to me. That is the way it is. His story, there are two words, his and story. Okay, we can also say her and story. It's only a point of view. This is how I see it. So for us as a people, as Africa, whether in the diaspora or those at home, we can never see the reality through another person's lens.
Right.
So which means we need to do the digging. We need to do the digging ourselves. We need to find it. Even though it has been written before, it doesn't matter. We need to write it again. Of course, we are going to also cite some of the Thomas of the US and the people in the Europe. Yeah, but the real work need to be done by us because there is so much history around that we need to leverage. I'm looking at the young people in Africa who are sort of waking up to the realization that after all, they too can also do something. But sometimes they are disoriented. This is the situation in the country and in the continent. There is a lot of disorientation so that in our acres of diamond, we never see diamond. But where should they start from, those people, so that they can leverage the creative economy?
This is is difficult to talk about this because there's nothing but opportunity when it comes to leveraging the creative economy. And I talked before about how there are tools available, there are platforms available that are open to the average person to be able to do that, to leverage the creator economy. But there also needs to be a level of support. And we have to be real and fair and honest that often our governments don't lend that support, right? They don't find it important. They find other personal things more important. And that hinders all types of development, including the development of the creative industries. So we need to hold them accountable for these types of things because it makes no sense that you talked about diamonds, but we never see that. Does that make any sense? We talk about the fact, and not to get overly political, but the fact that rich copper reserves, new rich copper reserves were just discovered in the Democratic Republic of Congo in DRC. We'll never see a penny of that money, right? Because it it's foreign companies that come in and mine and just take all of the riches out. But the thing is, people can only do to you what you allow them to do to you. There's no reason. And so I'm looking at this because we look at it holistically, that it's not just one economy or one that is effective. It's all of these industries that get affected by not having proper legislation, by not having proper leadership in place. So now that's done. There's nothing necessarily you as an individual can do about this right at this very moment. So leverage it. Take the time instead and find it important enough. So if you're going to do this, take it seriously. Learn the craft of whatever it is in the creative economy you're doing. If you're doing a podcast, learn that craft really well. Use the tools that are out there to tell the stories that need to be told. Know that unfortunately, we can't afford to behave as individuals. We're individuals, and I'm for individuality. However, we're also a collective, and the collective is the only way we're going to overcome all of these things. So unfortunately, you can't just be like, some Europeans and be individuals. Oh, it's my individual. No, we have to behave as a collective, because that's the only way we can overcome these things. So collectively, how can we start things that allow us to show what we've done, do it together instead of one production company in an African country doing something. Get together with a bunch of different companies and say, you know what, let's start a network of African thing. We can have our own news that covers news from all around Africa. We can do all those types of things. And I know, again, it's not as easy as I'm making it sound, but nothing that is worth it is ever easy. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. That's a very important one, particularly the collaboration, because that is actually at the centerpiece of what we talk about here often. And I think it is important. That is the only way we are going to be able to survive in this race that we are. You see, the African diaspora are hundreds of millions of people. And as I say often, if we were organized, nobody can stop us. Nobody. Now, this is what I mean. You see, storage, first of all, it is important that we know who we are, where we are coming from, what have our ancestors done before, so that it is when we know this that we will be able to say, okay, we can either do exactly what they have done or take the copy of what they have done and reframe it. But because they are our ancestors, we will be able to do things using their technology, their tips and tools, than copy other people that don't look like you, that don't use the same logic, the same tools of creation, and you are trying to play the game. You try to play the game that you don't understand very well. There is no way you can ever win.
Right.
Because I often say that I'm not trying to make the argument political, but there is no way we cannot even make it political if we are talking about reality that is happening in Africa. That between Africa and the rest of the world, we need to understand that it's a game being played. So we have two options. One, we understand the game very, very well and rewrite it in the way that it can favor us. Two, we refuse the game and rewrite another game based on what reflects us. Because right now as it is, we don't have our game. We are playing other people's game and we are hoping that we are going to win them. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So I believe that the creative economy really do have opportunity for us, but we are going to learn it. We're going to understand what is happening. Like you said, we're going to really master the craft so that we can rewrite it the way that it can favor us. Because you see, light is the same logic almost anywhere, no? But we're going to learn how to apply it in our situation. Because if we learn how to apply in our situation, we don't necessarily maybe need the nuclear light. Because there is already light that is coming from the sun. We need to learn how to tap into it and use it for ourselves. But you know that today, Nigeria as a country of over 200 million people is still in darkness. Literally in darkness. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm. Because we are playing another person's game, hoping that they will come to help us. But why would they come to help us? Why? Because they are Father Christmas. Nobody is coming to help us. Nigeria will remain in darkness forever until they look for a way to solve their problem.
Exactly. Exactly. There's no need for it. I mean, when we talk about literal darkness, should we still be having parts that don't have light or electricity? When you produce, you're one of the oil producing countries. So even if you're not using that, the sun is there all the time. Why are you not using solar? It comes to the down to the priorities of the government, and they don't see those things as a priority. This is a whole other thing as to why, but that's a problem.
Of course, this leads to the question I wanted to ask you before, which is the challenge that you see people having. Because now I think today, 2024, it is really possible for people to leverage the power that they have in their hand, which is the smartphone, like you just raise up and show to the people. In that, okay, you might say there is no light, but sometimes you have the light to stay on Facebook, for example. A lot of people stay on Facebook, spend all the time there. Why don't you use the same time that you are with? I say often that the only content that you can leverage is the one that you have created. You cannot leverage the content of other people by watching just Netflix. No. You need to use for a way to turn the camera like this. Instead of doing like this, turn it like this. Speak on it. Speak to it.
Yeah.
So this key is important. I don't know what you would recommend. Of course, I don't know. I already asked you something related to that, but are there some basic key that maybe people need to be able to do this, irrespective of where you might find yourself? This can also be within the people in the diaspora. Because sometimes a lot of people in the diaspora, even though they have light, they have internet, it's not only that they are taking enough action, to be really honest. It's not only the people in Africa, those African in the diaspora, even though they have light never go up here, there is internet 24 hours, of course you pay for it, I know. They don't take action. So I want you to speak to the skill set, the basic one that people need to get started in the creative economy.
Okay, so it depends on what exactly you're trying to do in the creative economy. You have to say, first of all, what is your message? Before you start creating anything, what is the message? What is it that you're trying to convey to an audience? Who is your audience, right? Now, who are the people that you're making this message for? Because it's not for you. It's not just for you. It has to be for an audience. So you have to determine that. And so once you've determined what your message is, who is your audience, then you can sit and think, okay, well, how do I want to do this? Let's take, for example, like what you're doing. It's like, all right, I want to do a video podcast, or what I call a vodcast. I want to do that. So I need to make sure that I pay attention to a few things. And this is a method that I always teach: CALISO, camera for the CA, lighting for the LI, and sound for the SO. So CALISO, camera, lighting, sound. Those are the basic things that you need technically to make it work. Make sure that you have a camera. Oh, I have that because I have a smartphone. Make sure that you have lighting. Oh, well, I'm going to do it outside, or I'm going to bring some lamps. If you really have some funding, it's not very expensive to go on something like an Amazon, depending on if you have it there, right? But to go anywhere, you could go to a hardware store, go someplace where you could get some basic lights to illuminate you, because if people can't see you, they're not going to listen. And likewise, if people can't hear you, they're not going to listen. So just relying on the sound from your phone, not so great, right? You should always have an external microphone, and those are not very expensive. And my thing is, if you say you're going to do this and you want to do it well, you ought to save to do it well. So use the tools of the trade. So a basic formula is camera, lighting, and sound. Make sure you have an adequate camera, make sure you have good lighting, and make sure you have good sound. The best way to learn is to watch other people who are doing it well. It puzzles me, people who want to do something and they don't watch other things. I used to have when I taught like a broadcast journalism class, I would talk to students and ask them, all right, so what do you want to do? Well, I think I want to be an anchor. I said, okay, you have to start as a reporter. Nobody really just starts as an anchor unless you're doing your own thing. They're like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, so what's your favorite news broadcast? I don't really watch the news. I just like, stop talking to me. Why would you, this is what you want to do, but you don't watch other people who are proficient in this? So that's another thing. You have to watch others. Who else is in the space doing what you do or doing what you want to do and doing it well? how can you replicate some of those things? So that's how you can start.
The tool set is key. You need the skill. You also need the tool. You made mention of both of them. But what about the mindset? Because I think that is where the big problem really is. Is that people, they believe that they want to do something, but they don't have the right mindset to do it. Like, for example, they want to make money, creative content. Of course, I will come to that on another question. They want to make money creative content because they heard somebody say that you can make money creative content, and they start today. But tomorrow the money is not coming because it doesn't work like that, no? You don't just sow cassava, you don't just plant cassava, sow maize today. Tomorrow you go to harvest it immediately. You have not yet germinated. If it germinates, you go to weed, no? What about the animal that are coming to take? You need to drive them away, no? It takes time. Some people don't understand that you need to have the right mindset to do all this. So what is your recommendation?
Yes, definitely get in the right mindset, because this is like the creator economy and the creative industries are like anything else, that it does not happen overnight. Forget the fact that you saw someone go viral. Okay, let me give you a great example. I don't know if you watch anything on TikTok, but there is this now viral series of videos. She has a whole playlist of 50 videos telling her story about how she was in a bad marriage or relationship and how she got bamboozled. This thing has gone viral to the point where, it has gone really viral. But it's interesting because now I see a lot of people, for example, on YouTube and on TikTok, responding to that and giving their thoughts. But then I also see some people trying to do the same thing. And I'm like, my dear, you're not her. You are not her. You cannot do the same thing that she's doing. And so because you just see one thing, you think, oh, I can do that too. Well, no, that came from, first of all, was honest. And now through this, producing 50 videos for this, now she's gotten a little bit of experience and she understands storytelling. That's the thing. So if you don't think you understand how to tell a story well, learn how to do it. There are all sorts of free resources online. One is, for example, Creative Live. So creativelive.com has free classes that happen. It's free if you watch it while it's live, but if you watch it on the replay, sometimes it's like $29 or whatever, but it's always free when it's live. So you can watch, they have all sorts of like video production, photography, etc. Same thing with Skillshare. HubSpot, they often have these free trainings. So the excuse of money is one that is null and void if you go for resources like this. So take the time to understand and learn the craft, for example, of storytelling. Make sure that you have the equipment, and then be prepared to wait. It is not going to happen for most people overnight. Wait, and then you need to tell people about it. You can't just say, I have a podcast and I'm going to stop because nobody's listening. Well, have you told anyone? Have you taken out social media ads to let people know, oh, I'm interested in doing this? Have you connected with groups, podcasting groups, to let them know this is what's happening? Even though those are not necessarily your audience, just to connect with other people for best practices. So if you're not doing your due diligence and then you're wondering why you're not making $1 million the day after you started your podcast or video series, I don't know what to tell you. But you're absolutely right that it takes time and it takes consistency. You should always be doing things like produce at least one video a week consistently so people follow you. My live stream series is every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. People already know that. And I'm on a break and people have said, okay, when are you coming back? I'm like, I'm coming back. Don't worry. So you want to have an audience asking about you because you're so consistent. So consistency is another way.
That is so powerful. I think you have to do also with the responsibility that we are talking about before, that you say you are going to show up.
Show up.
You don't show up when you feel that, oh, I feel so good today, I show up. Sometimes you're not going to feel good. Show up all the same. Because you say you are going to show up. You are holding yourself accountable. You see, it doesn't happen easily. It doesn't happen instantly. It takes time to happen. Another thing I also say to people often, because I remember, for example, in developing this podcast in the year 2020, I spent an entire year just talking about self-improvement because I feel it is important both for my community in the African diaspora and also for me personally, because we need to grow. We are always growing. So we need to learn also how to grow. It's like learning how to learn, but also learning how to unlearn. Because some of the things we learned growing up, we didn't choose them. For example, as a child, you don't choose what to learn. So the best instrument that we could actually have is to learn how to unlearn so that we pick only the information that we need. We don't need all the information. So that year, for example, I spent just talking about self-improvement. Can you take the time to help yourself? Because all the information really, they are available, really. Really, all the information are available.
It's right there.
But are we asking? Because if you don't ask the right question, if you ask a wrong question, you will get a wrong answer. So I think those are really very important, that we have the right mindset, approaching what we want to approach. Do we need to learn something? Let's learning. Is it possible that we make mistakes sometimes? Of course. But are you learning from the mistakes? Because if you don't learn from it, you're going to repeat it again. You will remain in a loop. The universe is really asking you, are you tired yet? If you're not tired, then you remain in that loop. But if you learn the lesson, then you move to the next one. The next one, and the next one, and the next one again. So I think we really have the possibility of able to move beyond where we are today if we decide to learn. And I think another important area, which is the monetization. I don't know what you want to say about that, as because now you know how to create content. You also even probably know how to do it better, do it well. Because there is no guarantee that just because you know how to do it well, you're going to make money from it. There are a lot of great artists out there who can never make anything from what they do. So share with me, what do you recommend?
I think you have to think differently about what monetization is. For the creative industries, it's not just one stream of income. I think sometimes people think, oh, like, for example, let's take Hollywood. Oh, I'm going to pitch a show to them and it's going to get picked up and I'm going to get paid. Probably not. I'm just being honest. I don't want for people to get their hopes up, because if they don't know you, they're not going to work with you. So probably not. But that's because you're only thinking about it. First of all, you're only thinking about the major ones and you're discounting other ones. And then you're only thinking about one stream of income. No, it comes from different things. So it's often not the show itself that you're going to get paid off of. Maybe a little bit. So maybe if it's popular on YouTube, you're going to get a little bit of Google AdSense money, right? But then you have to think about, who can I partner with where I can make some money that way? Where can I get brand partnerships and brand sponsorships, right? Partner with brands directly, because once you've cultivated your audience and you have a dedicated audience that likes what you do, brands want to align with that because they want their eyeballs. So cultivate that audience first, and then think about, how can I collaborate with brands and do brand partnerships and brand sponsorships? Also, what else can I sell that's in the same strain that will make money as well? Can I make a course? Can I do an ebook or a book that I could sell? So what products can I sell where you have a stream of income that is, I don't want to say passive, because it's not just passive. You're not doing nothing, but it's less active than I actually have to get on and do the show to get paid, right? That's the only way I do it, if I get paid. Well, now I need to make other things where I do it once and I can continuously get paid from it. So that's things like ebooks, that's things like consulting, that's things like doing trainings, that's things like doing courses, that's all of that. And then secondarily, or thirdarily, you could do something like swag, right? All right, I have a really popular brand. Can I sell t-shirts or mugs or water bottles with this on it and have people support that way, right? Fourth, you can also do something, and I don't know if this reaches, but Patreon is a site where you can have patrons who support your work. So you do a show and you can have different levels of things for your patrons where it's like, okay, if you give $5 a month towards this, you can have, we'll do once a quarter or however often course classes on this. So there are many people who have patrons who support them through a site like Patreon. So those are some ways aside from just the program itself that you can make money, because often it's not going, especially in the creative economy, it's not going to be the show itself that you make money from. It's all these other side things. The show makes maybe a little bit of money and most of it will come from these other things.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Dr. Tachi is really, really valuable. And of course, this is an important conversation that we need to have, and we need to have it often. And because, we are choosing what to talk about, and we are choosing our platform. We are choosing our audience. That put us on a power position. And I think that is what we need, more of that in the community. And I really love what you're sharing here. And of course, I think it's speaking also to the audience, letting them know that, okay, you can create content, you can make money, but you can also do it the way you want to do it, in the sense that you are the one choosing the topic. You are choosing, it's a good thing if you choose something within that area of your expertise also. That you are not going to be cracking your brain all the time. You can wake up in the middle of the night, you are not feeling sleepy, but you will go and happily work because you love it. If you don't love it, is because it is not easy. From my experience, it's not easy. But if you like it, it's not difficult.
Right.
But if you don't like it, you will not even do it for a few months, no? And whereas it takes years and years to refine this art before you can actually leverage it.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for that sharing. Now, how can people find you?
Oh, you can find me everywhere. So, first of all, I really am on Instagram a lot. So you can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr._Tachi. So at DR_TACHI. That's probably one of the best ways to reach me. If you're trying to reach out to me, send me a DM on Instagram. You can also check out everything that I do. I'm on YouTube at Dr._Tachi as well. And you can watch Mediascope and a lot of the media things that I do on my YouTube channel. Same for, you can watch stuff on Instagram, but I have a lot of stuff on YouTube as well. Also for our upcoming network, Indie Soup Media, you can go to indiesoupmedia.tv, and maybe you are already a creator that's looking to get some exposure. Right now we have a reach of almost 1 million. And so I think that's, and we haven't even launched yet. So I think that's amazing. And so you can go to indiesoupmedia.tv, scroll down to the bottom, and you can fill out an application if you want to be a creator on the platform.
Thank you so much for that. Of course, the people have seen that they should take advantage of it. We are always encouraging collaboration because it is important. Nobody knows it all. Nobody can do it alone. We all need each other. It is very important that we work with each other. That is so true. All right. So what we talk about today are the opportunity within the creative economy. And of course, we look at the African diaspora and of course, people in Africa, because that is our target audience. Now, what would be your final thought here? Maybe a reflection or a message you want to leave the people with? Please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, this is something that I always say to people who want to start creating and they don't know where to start or how to start. Start where you are. It doesn't mean that you have to have the best camera, the best sound, the best lighting, the brightest idea. Sometimes these things take time to develop, just like it takes time for an audience to gravitate towards it. So start where you are. Just start, because that then gives you the courage to keep going, I think, once you've just started. So I think we also use the excuse of, oh, I don't have this camera, not to do it. Well, you don't have the excuse anymore because you probably have a smartphone. So start where you are and then respect your audience enough to get better as you can get better.
Dr. Tachi, thank you so much for the conversation. This is really been very interesting and full of value for the people that are listening. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.